Grossi Posse Packer Nation, welcome to another episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I am your host, Tom Grossi, and wow, this took a really long time. When I said I was going to do a mock draft, I was like, all right, I'll take a look and, kind of throw some names together. This took me just for the first round 3 hours of research because I didn't want to just put together some crappy mock draft. I wanted to put together a mock draft that would blow your socks off. It's not going to be any more exciting. It can't get more exciting than me reading a whole bunch of names. Some high quality stuff right there. So I'm gonna preface this, which this is actually the first mock draft that I have ever done. And so be gentle on me in that I did my research. This is not just like copying and pasting from random websites. This is looking at the top prospects, looking at what each team needs. And so a lot of time went into this. So I'm sorry if I'm wrong on all of these, but we'll probably do at least one or two more because what else are we going to do until April 28th? So what we're going to do is we're going to go forward. We're going to break down each team briefly because this is going to be like a 45-minute video if I don't do it briefly. And next week, what I'll do is I'll put together a Packers-only video in which we'll break down the needs of the team and potential targets for the draft. Sound good? I thought so. So with that being said, let's start mock drafting. All right, so let's start off with the number one pick. They almost beat the Packers, the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns, they need some help. They obviously need a quarterback. They've been playing quarterback carousel for many years. And so they need a quarterback. They need a running back. They also need some corners as well. You have guys like, this is obviously wide receiver. Their offense, they can be like with Josh Gordon. He's the best player on that offense. They need somebody to throw him the ball. And so what I think a lot of people are predicting, and I'm going to kind of jump on this bandwagon, is this is going to be their opportunity to pick up both a QB and a running back and kind of kill two birds with one stone, but don't kill birds. So I think with the very first pick, again, this could go either way with various different quarterbacks, but Sam Darnold looks like he is going to be their guy. He's been like the consensus pick for like the number one, the most QB ready. And so I think they're going to pick him for the number one spot. The Giants, also in need of some help. They need some help on that offensive line because Eli Manning is, when he's not getting benched, is getting slammed around. They do need to start thinking about a quarterback because Eli Manning's days in New York, I believe, are numbered and in the NFL are numbered. And they also need a running back because they've also been playing the carousel with running backs and they really just can't get a good, solid starter. And so with that being said, I think the Giants are going to be picking Eli Manning's successor, allow him to kind of take the Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre route, let him sit under Eli Manning for at least a season, and I think they'll pick Josh Rosen, the QB. So I think the two QBs will go right off the bat, and so the Giants will find their next Eli Manning, or at least that they hope that at least they can beat the Patriots in a few Super Bowls, and so we'll have two QBs right off the board. The Colts are in an interesting predicament because Andrew Luck is the guy gonna play. I don't think there's any way they're gonna go for a QB because they are still gung-ho on Andrew Luck playing. I'm hoping he comes back. That would be a real shame if he's not able to continue his career. And so with that being said, they need inside linebacker help. That defense really needs some help. Their offensive line is struggling. They also need an edge rusher, and that's exactly who I think they're gonna get in Bradley Chubb, arguably one of the best, if not the best overall athlete of the draft. I think they will get Bradley Chubb. That will give their defensive line a much-needed pass rush, and so they'll be rocking with that. The number 4 pick, which, courtesy of the Texans, who will not be selecting anybody from the first round unless they trade in, the Browns go again. So this is like me playing on Madden and just like trading all my crappy picks for like 9 first-round draft picks. Come on, you did it too. And so the Browns have 2 picks in the top 5. I think they're going to secure their quarterback with the first pick, and then they're going to secure their running back with Saquon Barkley. And this guy is a stud, potentially the best player in the draft. So you're going to see kind of like an Ezekiel Elliott. Dak Prescott, rookie running back, rookie QB. This will give the Browns a much needed boost on offense and allow them to be a bit more explosive. Now, this also depends on where Kirk Cousins goes, because that's obviously going to impact this draft order. If the Browns wind up getting him, which I don't think they're going to spend the millions and millions of dollars to get him, I just don't see them blowing that money. But you could see him go to a team like the Broncos, who look like they're gonna go what they did with Peyton Manning, or you could see the Jets picking him up as well. But I'm gonna pretend Kirk Cousins doesn't exist here, and I'm just gonna go right on through. I don't think the Broncos are gonna be picking up a QB. And so with that being said, their offensive line definitely needs help. They need guards, they need tackles, and I think they'll get Quentin Nelson, the offensive guard. I think he'll give whoever is behind center some protection, whether that's Kirk Cousins or somebody else. I wouldn't be surprised if Cousins goes to the Broncos, because I think he always willing to pay the money for him, because it's just worth it. The Jets, oh boy, living in New York, all I hear about is how much the Jets suck. But they sucked slightly less this year, and they also sucked less than the Giants. Who saw that coming? They need a QB, they need a running back, and they also need an offensive tackle. Matt Forte is just not really doing it for him. But I think they're going to go with a QB here. Josh Allen seems like the guy. So we'll have two Joshes in New York. Technically New Jersey. The only New York team is the Buffalo Bills. That's just a fact. But I think they'll pick Josh Allen, and hopefully that will be the end of their QB woes, or at least the Jets will hope so. Listen, he can suck when they play the Packers next year. That's fine. The Buccaneers, not the number 7 pick. Now, they're in a predicament as well, because who knows what their QB situation is like. I mean, he's kind of on the ropes here. Like, this is a make or break season for this guy. After being featured on Hard Knocks and having high expectations for the season, they are obviously the number 7 pick, did not pan out the way that they wanted to. The Buccaneers, they need help with their defensive ends. They need a running back, especially after letting Doug Martin go, RIP Muscle Hamster. And they also need some cornerback, because their secondary, especially in the NFC South, definitely needs work. And so with that being said, I think they're going to get this hybrid guy, Minkah Fitzpatrick, which he could play safety. He could also play cornerback. So either way, I think this is going to give their secondary a much needed boost. And plus, NFL teams are now going for those hybrid guys, people who can switch back and forth. The Bears. Now, this was a tough pick, because you would think that these guys, they need a wide receiver. They don't have anybody. They just don't have anybody to throw the ball to. And so, like, you think about, like, Kevin White, who was a top 10-ish, you can correct me if I'm wrong, draft pick a few years ago. Gone, just been injured, not really producing the way that they want him to. But with that being said, I couldn't give them a wide receiver, because this guy was still on the board. They do need, besides wide receiver, they need offensive line help, and they also need a cornerback. And so I think they're going to be getting Denzel Ward here, because the guy's a phenomenal player. He's definitely a top 10 talent, and I just don't see them wasting that on a wide receiver. But they could. They definitely could. I wouldn't be surprised if some guy like Calvin Ridley goes here. Now, that being said, speaking of Calvin Ridley, the 9 spot is tied between the Raiders and the 49ers. They're going to flip a coin, and so let's just go through each of them. If the 49ers are picking, they need wide receiver help to give Jimmy G some much-needed support on offense, and they need to get some weapons, because now they have their franchise QB, who's undefeated, and so now they need to build the team around him. So I think they'll definitely be going wide receiver, even though they could use some offensive line help. They could use some cornerback help, but I see them going with Calvin Ridley here. He'll be the first wide receiver chosen, and kind of giving Jimmy G the weapons he needs. The Raiders. Boy. All right, that defense. Khalil Mack is like the greatest player on that team, and then that defense is like devout of any other talent. They need cornerback help. They need inside linebacker help. They do need offensive line help. I think they're going to go, and this guy has been mentioned with the Packers a lot. I don't know if he's going to drop that far, but Josh Jackson, the cornerback, I think he's going to be taken by the Raiders if he's still there. I'd be surprised if he dropped down. Also, they need to figure out what they're going to do with running back. They said that Gruden was talking to Marshawn Lynch, and he's like, I need you to play full-time. Like, give me the real Marshawn Lynch. I mean, Marshawn Lynch was like taking off entire quarters last season, so I don't really know what they're going to do about their running back situation, but hey, I could see them steadying up their secondary. The Dolphins, they need offensive line help as well with the guards. They need inside linebackers. They also need to figure out what they're doing with their running game as well, but I think they'll go with cornerback as well and go with Tremaine Edwards. Some people were mentioning about quarterbacks. I just don't see them giving up on Ryan Tannehill yet because, I mean, they gave him a whole bunch of money. And Miami, I just don't know what to do with you guys. Like, you guys, like, beat the Patriots last year, and then you got blown out 40-0 against the Ravens. So I just don't know your team. The Bengals, they need offensive line help. They potentially start looking for an Andy Dalton replacement at QB, and they need linebacker. I think they are going to draft a QB. I see a bunch of QBs going within the top 15. Baker Mayfield looks like he fits here. Again, he can sit behind Dalton because a lot of people, when we were talking to Bengals fans last year, a lot of people are starting to kind of get off the Andy Dalton train. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go QB here with Baker Mayfield. The Redskins, they need linebacker help as well as defensive line help. They need some safety help. And I think they'll pick Derwin James. If James, who's a safety, I think if he falls down to the Redskins, they will be very, very happy about that. They're getting a fantastic player. Now, number 14, my Green Bay Packers. One and only. Again, we'll break this down further in a video, but they need quarterback. They could use some depth on offensive line. Wide receiver, a little bit. I wouldn't mind getting a guy, but not in the first round. They need an edge rusher. They need a linebacker, and they also need a safety because it looks like Morgan Burnett is going to at least test out the free agency. So, with that being said, I think that we're going to get our linebacker here, and then we're going to get Raquan Smith. I think this guy, if he falls to us, I'd be very happy. So this guy has a lot of talent, and he really can shore up that linebacker core, which we have needed help there for quite some time. Number 15, Cardinals. I think that you're going quarterback. Quarterback seems to be like the number one need here. You do need offensive line help. You do need wide receiver help, but I think you're going to go quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals traded up to get their guy, but Mason Rudolph, I see them picking at number 15 and picking that quarterback. The Ravens. There's another one. Who do you throw to? Like, I just don't know. And so, wide receiver help, you need tight end, and you also need a running back and figure out what you're doing with that. Danny Woodhead, we have no idea. He obviously was coming off a major injury. Who knows if he's going to be the same again. I think they're going to pick up a wide receiver, Cortland Sutton. He was hailed as like the number one wide receiver, but now teams are kind of down on him, according to some sources. But he is a big red zone threat, and I think he'll give Flacco a much needed goal line threat. The Chargers, they need some offensive line help. They might start thinking about replacing or at least developing a new quarterback behind Phillip Rivers. They also need linebacker help, but I think they'll go offensive line and get Connor Williams. They'd be pretty happy with that and get an offensive tackle. The Seahawks, same deal. They need offensive help. They need cornerback help, especially if Richard Sherman's going bye-bye, and they need offensive guards. And so Orlando Brown, I see getting picked at number 18, the offensive tackle. Number 19, the Cowboys. Jason Witten, is this guy going to retire anytime soon? Maybe after this season. I would think that they would go tight end, but they also need defensive tackle help. They need cornerback help. That secondary definitely needs work. So I think they'll go Vita Vea, which is a defensive tackle. If he's there at number 19, the Cowboys will be very, very pleased. Number 20, the Lions. Here they are. Defensive end. They need an offensive guard. They need linebacker. I would also think they need running backs too, because that running back by committee is not really working for them, but who am I to judge them? I think they'll be getting a defensive end who can also shift over to outside linebacker. Okbania, don't make me say it, Okoronkwa. I butchered that, sir, and I am so sorry, but he's a defensive end offensive linebacker. I see them picking him up and shoring up that defense a little bit, especially when you have some people leaving the team. The Bills own the number 21 and 22 spot. They need definitely some quarterback help, especially because they're going to be letting theirs go, most likely, cornerback and also defensive tackle. I see them picking up Lamar Jackson, the quarterback, and then Maurice Hurst, who's a defensive tackle. Again, kind of just filling both needs here. The Rams, they need cornerback help, especially because they're going to be letting some go with the free agency. They need offensive line help and also linebacker help. I see them picking up a center here who's the best one in the draft, and that's Billy Price. So kind of, again, shore up that offensive line so Todd Gurley can actually just run the ball more and give Jared Goff some more protection. The number 24 pick, I see the Panthers. They need offensive line help. They need wide receivers because, again, they need someone to throw the ball to besides Devin Funches. They need also defensive end help, and I think that's what they'll get here with this pick, and Marcus Davenport picking up a defensive end. Number 25, the Titans, they need an edge rusher, an offensive guard, also a tight end if they're going to start thinking about replacing Delaney Walker, even though he's like the only guy who does anything on their team, and Marcus Mariota when he catches his own touchdowns. Harold Landry, an edge rusher, he's a great guy. I know him personally. He's a great athlete, and so I think they'll go and fulfill that need, and again, that defense really needs some work, so they'll pick him up. The Falcons, they need a defensive tackle, an offensive guard, some safeties. I think they'll get the offensive guard here because Matt Ryan went down way too much last season, and they'll pick up Mr. Isaiah Wynn for the win. Number 27. Now, this is the Saints. This is a little dicey. Drew Brees. We're going to go. They started saying that during the combine, they'll talk contract extensions. How long is he going to play? Obviously, he didn't falter in his play last year. I don't think they'll get a QB here. They could go tight end. I would not be surprised. Or they can go wide receiver. I think they'll pick Michael Gallup, who is a wide receiver, just to give him another threat. And again, because they're already set at running back. The Steelers, they need inside linebacker, a potential QB to replace Roethlisberger, and a safety. With injuries abound and you don't know who is coming back. You also don't know if you're going to have a running back with Le'Veon Bell. I think they're going to pick up Rashaan Evans, who's a linebacker, because he can fill a need, especially when you have players who are up in the air and if they're going to be returning. Number 29 with the Jaguars, they need tight ends because Mercedes Lewis is like 105 years old, offensive guard and wide receiver. I think they'll pick up a tight end, Dallas Goedert. Again, the Saints could get him, but I see them going tight end and kind of giving the Jaguars some more weapons there. Who's next? Who's next? Number 30. Because they didn't win the Super Bowl. Who is that? What is that? Oh! It is I, Tom Grossi, the Vikings fan. What is this garbage? Tom Grossi had me locked in the basement, but his puny little arms couldn't even tie a knot! Oh! Now, the only person that will be talking about the Vikings draft choice will be myself, Tom Grossi. Now, the Vikings are a perfect team. They don't need anybody else. But just because we have to make a pick, I'll make a pick. So if we had to talk about some positions we needed, I would say offensive tackle, offensive guard. We basically don't have an offensive line, and a defensive lineman. Now, what some of you puny Packer fans don't know is that our quarterback situation is great. We've been working on very high-tech stuff and fusing Case Keenum with Teddy Bridgewater into forming the ultimate quarterback. They've been doing the fusion dance, and it's been very successful. So we have no problem at quarterback, and he'll get rid of a whole bunch of cap space because they're going to fuse into one person. Now, sorry, I'm shedding again. I just shaved. The person that we are going to be picking up is Taven Bryan, the defensive lineman. Why? Just so he can break Aaron Rodgers' other arm. And then the Vikings will be in the Super Bowl. I can feel it next year. He doesn't even have any beer or ale. What a puny little man. Well, if I hang around this much cheese, I'm going to start breaking out in hives. So with that being said, this is Tom Grossi. He's going to wake up. Tom Grossi's going to wake up any minute now. So I'm going to go. But I'll be back. Vikings fans, never give up. And Packers fans, right there. And hold on, what's that out of my pocket? Right there. Oh! Well, that was weird. Okay, number 31, the Patriots. They need a cornerback. Again, quarterback maybe too, because who knows? Brady's going to play until he's 55. And they need an edge rusher. But here's my random pick here. Just because this guy has dropped so far, I don't think they'll be able to let him go, because while Deion Lewis is great, I think Darius Gurley, the running back, they could pick him up, and if he falls to number 31, that'll give their offense a big, big push. Even though they could use some defensive help, I wouldn't be surprised if they pick up this running back. And number 32, finally, the Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles, they need a left tackle, definitely a linebacker, and also a cornerback. And I think they'll pick up the guy from Notre Dame, Mike McClinchy, which is like a very, I think, Irish name? Yeah, I think Notre Dame, right? To kind of shore up that offensive line a little bit. So that's the mock draft. I'll put a list of it down in the description, just so in case you missed anything, we'll do that. But yeah, let me know what you think. Am I totally far off? Again, this is my first time doing it, so I'm so sorry. I put a crap ton of effort into this, and I'm going to go rethink my life decisions. But again, I did this also without pants this morning, so I can't really complain. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com, TomGrossI Comedy, or Tom Grossi Comedy on the Twitter. Check out Packcast, Packast, which is this podcast. We do multiple episodes per week. We're on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and of course, YouTube. Check out the Patreon, please, at Tom Grossi Comedy. I always appreciate your support. There's a bunch of really cool rewards down there. Also, bam! Comedy special poster, Allergic to Fun, March 24th. Going to be fine if you're in the New York area. Come and attend. It's $20 ticket, and no drink minimum or item minimum or anything like that. So you can check that out. Also, just ordered a whole bunch of new Grossi Posse shirts. And yes, I heard your calls about the Packcast shirts. I will get a few designs up for you shortly, so you can take a look at that. Woo! All right, this was an episode almost 20 minutes long. So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. I'll see you next week. And as always, go Pack Go.